again, what we're here to talk about today is SOLIDWORKS Electrical and a single line diagram. So first thing I would like to do is I'm going to discuss a little bit about how this is set up, and then we'll look at the single line diagram, and then we're going to add a quick thing to it just to see kind of how this can be used. Then we're actually going to create a single line diagram from scratch so that we have an understanding of how we got to the position of this type of screen right here. So we're going to show a quick example of what one looks like. Then we're going to come back and create a one from scratch and give you guys a little bit of insight on how single line diagrams can be useful to you. So I've done quite a few demos of electrical over time, and I've asked questions about if people use single line diagrams. A majority of the people actually don't, or say, well, we do, but in a different way. So I just want to kind of discuss here with what single line diagrams are. This particular page I have open, this is in the electrical schematic, the 2D package. What we're seeing here is a couple of locations. So we have a location 1, location 2, which is the pallet dispenser, and then location 3, which is the main conveyor. So I have 3 separate cabinets inside of this particular project. Now each one of those cabinets are going to have their own information in them, their own schematics, their own components, as well as wires and cables connecting to them. So if we look quickly here at a single line diagram of this, what we're kind of seeing here, this is the packaging diagram for what's in one of those cabinets. Okay, so we have a terminal strip. We have several components. These are some transformers and contactors, as well as some circuit breakers. And then over here on the left, we have several buttons and some other contacts and relays as well. Now what we're really doing here is we're laying out kind of in a very generic line format that inside of this cabinet, or coming into this cabinet, is these 4 motors down here. So there will be cables that are going to connect directly into the terminal strip. So someone at a high level, whether they're a managerial level or just someone who needs to look and quickly understand what's happening with the electrical scheme, can look at this single line diagram and relatively quickly understand where things are going and how they need to connect. So we have 4 motors down here. They all connect to our terminal strip here. And from the terminal strip, the wires come out and connect to the components and filter over and eventually connect to the buttons, push buttons on the door. So what we want to do here is I want to show you how easy it is to essentially set this up. Down here in the bottom right corner here, we're just going to add another motor real quick. So I'm going to grab from my line diagram, just going to grab a symbol, and it's going to be in my motors right here, and I'll just place that symbol out there. Now I can, at this point, add a manufacturer part to this. I could skip this and add a manufacturer part later. If somewhere down in my scheme I've already got my motor, I can always tie it back and reference which component I'm using. Because I already have 4, M4 is my last one, the next motor in line is going to be M5, so the system's automatically pulling that. And if I had M5 in one of my other locations out here, I could go select that, but I don't have that there yet. So let's just real quickly add the manufacturer part for this. This is going to be the Avery Sumner 112 4-pole motor. So I'll just select that, and that information populates out. Now all I need to do is say, okay, there's going to be a cable going from this motor up into my terminal strip. So I'll just draw a cable. And that simply, I have now connected that motor to my terminal strip inside of my cabinet. And this cable, right now it doesn't have any intelligence, but I can add that intelligence to it. And that's part of what we're going to be discussing here later. This motor actually does have intelligence. I've specifically said that this motor is going to be this type of manufacturer. This is the part number, and this is the information about that. So there is intelligence at the single line diagram level. It does not have to be a slimmed down bare bones. It can be, but we can also add that intelligence that we can leverage later. So that's a very simple connection of adding a component and drawing that up to my terminal strip. So let's go ahead and kind of look at this from scratch and how to do this. So I'm going to come over to a different project. And here I have nothing created as of yet. So we're going to build this from scratch. And what we need here is we're going to have a pump that's going to be connected to a couple of limit switches going across the terminal block. So the first thing we want to do is just add a few of our symbols. So I'm going to go grab my pump first of all. That's right here. And I'm just going to place that out there. Now, if I want to apply a manufacturer part number to that, I certainly can. We're actually going to choose the same part number we just did. So I just select that. Now, if this is the first time seeing electrical at all, what I'm doing here, let me back out of here and do that again. Once I place that symbol, electrical is saying, okay, what information do you want to have about this symbol? Where is it specifically located? So I should tell that this is the first motor, so the mark that is going to be added is M1. This is the first motor that's in this particular system. I can choose to go grab a manufacturer part, so I can actually put a physical part on this, and that's what my search here is. This is my database. Under my Leroy Sumners, I have 139 motors in this particular category of my database. So I'm just wanting to search down to limit my search, and I can type in reference information here. So I know it's an LS112, and I have 3 options there. So I can choose which one I want. And what I'm trying to do is satisfy particular circuits. In the single line diagram, I'm not as concerned about that. Maybe I already know what motor I'm going to use, so that's all I'm doing is applying that motor to it. I'll select that. Okay, and now there is my symbol. Now my symbol filled out with my manufacturer part number right there. There's my mark, and I have a little more information about that particular motor there as well. So now that we've added that, let's go ahead and add a terminal strip icon to show that I need to connect this motor to a terminal strip. So I'm going to use this symbol here. I'm not going to fill out any information about my terminal strip as of yet, so I'm just going to accept that. It's X1 is my mark for my terminal strip. Next, let's go grab a limit switch. So I'm going to choose that one right there and place it out here on my line diagram. Now that I have a pump, a limit switch, my terminal strip, I simply can choose my icon to draw a cable, and I want to connect this motor to that terminal strip. Now, we don't see it yet, but this cable actually does have some intelligence, so we're going to do that here in just a second. Let's add another cable. It's going from that limit switch down here to my terminal strip. And now what I would like to do, let's add a part number to my symbol here. So we're just going to go to my symbol properties. And I could have done this again on the fly, but I just want to do a quick search here. It's going to be in E2K. L26, right there. So I add that on-run switch. So that's add some intelligent information like the circuitry. Now that's going to be important. So now I know that I have 4 circuits on the motor and I have 2 circuits on that switch. So I'm going to need corresponding terminal strip information as well. So let's go into my detailed cabling. I actually want to add a physical cable between the motor and my terminal strip. So I can double click on that cable, and this will take me to my detailed cabling. And this is actually going to allow me to connect the wires from the cable to the motor to my specific terminal strip. So first of all, I'm just going to, it says no cable selected. So I don't have a manufacturer part, but I know I'm going to need one, so I can just double click in here, and we can go browse for a specific cable. We're looking for GBS, RH, 4G, 25, right there. So that's the cable I'm looking for. So I'm going to go ahead and select that cable. And now we can see here the cable is actually showing up here. So I have my motor, I have my cable, and now I need some terminal strips. So I'm just going to add some terminal blocks. We're going to do several terminal blocks at one time. This is asking me, well, how many would you like? Well, I know I need 4 for my motor, and I know I need 2 for my limit switch. So let's just add 6. And then we're going to give those some part numbers. So we actually want to assign manufacturer part numbers to those as well. So we're going to choose to assign a part. I have 13,000 Wago components in here, so let's narrow that down a little bit. It's going to be 2001-1201, which is right there. So all of those components I'm applying, this is the terminal block that's going to be added to it. So there's the part number that shows up. And now over here on the left side of my detailed cabling, I can see my terminals. So what I need to do at this point is I have 4 wires here that need to connect to my 4 terminals. And I simply select them all. I say connect, and then it connects that side up. So that side of my cable is connected to my terminal blocks. I need to do the same to my cable connecting to my motor over on this side. Connect. And now that cable information has showed up, and I actually have intelligence here, so I know what cable is connecting my pump to my terminal blocks. Let's go ahead and do that for our limit switch. So here we have, there's my 2 leftover terminal blocks. Here is my sensor that I have, but I still need a cable here, so we need to choose to add a cable. This is going to be a U1000 RVFV 2x1.5 right there. So I'll choose that cable. I'll add that to my project. Now I just do the same thing. Those 2 terminal blocks are going to connect to that cable. This side, the black side, is going to connect to this side of my switch, so I'll connect that one, and then the blue wire is going to go to the other side. So at this point, I have connected all of that information together, and I've done it relatively quickly. So I have a lot of intelligent information. Now this will flow downstream as well because I have my cables already determined. My connections are made. I already have my marks. So I can start to reference this information as I build my schematics moving forward. So now that I have some information set up in here, let's go ahead and create, we're going to drop in a block here. So the idea here is we've already got a block of what this system is going to sort of look like. So this is just a DWG file. For those of you that may be familiar with blocks and DWGs, this is my pump diagram. And I'm just going to place that out here. So here's my pump right here. I have a lower level limit switch and an upper level limit switch. And I can see I've only got one limit switch right now. So we're going to have to make that adjustment. Before I do that, I want to show you we have some layer functionality. So I can actually add layers on the fly here. I can name this. This is going to be called my new layer. I'm original today. We're going to give it a color. Let's make something that's going to stand out that we can see. So let's use red. And now I want to make that my current layer. Right now layer 0 is current. So by selecting that button there, that makes my new layer I just created current. And what I want to do is I want to reflect that from the motor right here. That is actually connecting to my pump. And so you can see that I added a new layer. Let's do that one more time. We're going to connect this limit switch here to that one there to reflect that's where it's at. Now I'm thinking red, maybe that wasn't the best choice there because my cables are red, so let's just go ahead and change that to blue. There we go. So now that information updates. All right. So I'm doing okay here, but I need another limit switch. So I have a lower level, I need my upper level. So instead of going through that process all over again, let's just copy that. So I'm going to just select that, and I can do an edit copy like this. I could do Control-C on my keyboard. I'm going to do a Control-V to paste that, and I'm just going to drop that out there. I need that cable. to connect down to my terminal strip, so I'll just drag that down to connect it. And it copied all that information. It took the information of the actual switch, so you can see that it copied that information, so I don't have to create that again. It created the new mark, so I don't have to worry about that. And there's my cable, so all that information is there. Okay? So let's go have a look now at my terminal strip. If I go into my terminal strip, I can see that this is my X1 terminal strip, and if I choose to draw that, so I just hit that one button to draw the pages, and now over here I have a terminal strip that was actually created. Now I can see I've got only the two components in there. I actually need my third component, so we need to go back and make that quick adjustment. So we need to do our detailed cabling for that particular limit switch. So I can just double click and go back in there. But you see I have a couple of question marks here. This side is already connected. It did what it needed to do to connect up to this from copying my original mark. But my second one, I need to add a couple of terminals. So let's go ahead and just add a few terminals here. I want to add two more. We'll give those a part number. Now I could have added 8 all at one time, but I just wanted to show that you can make these adjustments on the fly, so all the information can be a moving target. So I want those two to connect to that wire, so I connect that up. Now because I've already got my terminal block drawing created right here, it needs to obviously be updated. So I simply just right-click on that drawing, update my terminal strip drawing, and there is my new component that was added. So all that information is there. You can see that it's all automatically adding the ground symbol. This is functionality that is embedded with electrical. I didn't have to set anything up or do anything special here. Once your terminal strips are created and everything is connected, you can automatically draw that. All right, so I'm pretty close to what I need here. Let's go add some reports. So let me jump into my reporting here. And you see my cables actually don't have any information on them. The description is empty for the cable 1, cable 2, cable 3. So let's make a quick adjustment there before I add any reports. I'm going to come back and I can just go into each one of these cables. And I can double click on the cable to bring up the properties of that cable. I also can get to this a couple of different ways, but to me this is the simplest way to do it. You just double click on that, double click on the cable. I'm going to come down here and add a description. This is going to be my pump cable. This is going to be my lower limit switch cable. And lastly, my upper limit switch cable. Okay. So now when I go back into my reports, you can see that that information has actually populated. So that information is there. Let's go ahead and add a report. We want to add manufacturer, bill of material manufacturer by mark. So we're going to add that and just OK to that. And now I can see there's my full bill of material. This can be exported to a text file or to an Excel file that can then be read in by maybe an MRP system that you're using. But before I do much more here, let's go ahead and generate some drawings. I want to create those 3 drawings there. Now you'll watch over here, right below my Note 04 drawing there, when I say OK, it actually builds a couple of drawings there. So I can do that on the fly. And if we have a look at my bill of material, you can see it automatically generates my BOM drawing for me. Here's my bill drawing. And then there's my bill of material by specific manufacturer. Okay. Now we just need to get those drawings that we've got created. We need to get those out to a PDF so we can use that information downstream. So let's go down here to my import-export, and I can export this to DWG files or PDFs, really completely up to you, whatever you prefer. I see most people use PDFs. So I want to spit these out to a letter size. Where do I want them to go to? Let's just stick them on my desktop. I'll call this new line diagram. And I'll print that. And here is my start to finish drawing. There's the single line diagram with all the information. I see I forgot to add that extra arc. I could go back and do that really quickly. There's my terminal strip drawing and my bill of materials. So this webinar was kind of designed to give you guys a very simple introduction into single line diagrams. Maybe understand how they can be used without doing full-blown schematics. You can still very quickly, very simply get bill of material information with regards to setting up quotes potentially and giving you a great jump start on your schematic that you would do once the project's been awarded. So at this point, I'd like to offer up, if anyone